Grab your coffee, everyone. We're going to be talking reality. We're going to be talking reality in real estate. A new article has come out giving us the 5 cities across the entire U.S. that are experiencing the worst markets for a seller to sell. Now listen, if you're a buyer in one of these markets, you're gonna wanna stay tuned because the worst market for a seller usually indicates the best market for a buyer. So grab your coffee and let's chat. All right, so there is a new study out, and we're going to go over what was determined. I have it right here in front of me, so I want to run through this with you so that you have actual numbers. Now, I'm going to link the article. I'm going to link the article and the study that I'm referencing down in the description box. So if you want to do a deep dive into it, you absolutely can do that. I'm going to give you the high points and the things that matter and that are relevant. So the reason I want to talk about this today is because listen, people are still buying homes in Florida. People are still buying condos in Florida. Yes, the condo market is really pretty much being hit the hardest because people just don't understand where the problems are. You know how that is. Like, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I'm not saying go out and buy a condo that's a mile from the Gulf and it's 10 stories high and it was built in 1970. I'm not saying that because that would be one of the worst problematic ones, especially if the structure report came in and there's any assessments that have come in. Because what they're doing is they're retrofitting certain condos. Now listen, I said the word certain condos, not every single condo. But what happens is the news, they grab a story, they generalize it, they lob it out there, you know, just to scare people, and then nobody goes into a deep dive and they start telling all their neighbors not to buy a condo in Florida because you're going to get assessed $10,000 a month. They just grab something for the fear factor of it, but having said that, there is some fear factor on certain types of condos, not every single one. But because of that misnomer out there and people not understanding how to sort of dust off the bad, separate the grain from the chaff, people don't really understand how to do that, and then they rule themselves out of potentially a really good deal. But this conversation today is not about condos. We're talking about 5 cities in the U.S. So the entire U.S., I'm going to give you today 5 cities that have the worst markets for a seller. So if you're looking to sell in these markets, you have to understand you're going to probably sit on a ton of days on market. You're going to have tons of competition. You're going to take probably less than you want to. Now, is there any way around it? Yes, but it usually involves the word that starts with a P. We'll just put it right here so we don't offend anybody. And that is the place that most sellers in these markets don't want to go. Spoiler alert, 4 of the 5 cities are in Florida. Wow. Yep, 4 of the 5 are in Florida. The number 1 worst place to sell a home, right now is not in Florida. It is Champaign, Illinois. So those of you, I have a lot of folks that watch my channel because I see my demographics. A lot of folks that watch my channel live in Chicago. And I think that Champaign, I mean, we could do a little quick search on a map, but I think that Champaign is very close to Chicago. Number 1 worst place to sell a home based upon, and these are the things, this is how this study was done, so this will apply to every city. Days on market, number of homes on the market, number of price drops, and then also your percentage of ask to sale. So in other words, if you were asking $800,000 and you sold for $600,000, percentage of ask to sale. So all of the things that really matter to folks. So right now, sitting number 1 is Champaign, Illinois, but we're not going to jump into that too much because the other 4 cities are in Florida. Okay, the number 2 city, and if you watch this channel, this will come as no surprise to you. People are about to get really darn mad right now. People are about to get mad. Number 2 city, worst place to have a home on the market right now. You guessed it, Cape Coral. Your favorite and mine, Cape Coral. Now, why is that? In my Southwest Florida real estate agent opinion, literally every 3rd home is on the market, and a lot of those homes are the ones that I personally, this is my opinion, these are the homes that are near impossible to sell because they offer nothing. They're 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, plain old homes. Maybe they have a pool. If they have a pool, fabulous, that at least gives you something. But if you are backing to another home, listen, you have one thing. You have one silver bullet, and it starts with a P. We don't want anybody getting upset, but that's all you really can do. Now, here's where the problem came in. People that tried out the Florida experiment during the virus years, we'll say it that way. YouTube is demonetizing a lot of people right now for many different things, so I'm going to be a little careful with my words, but during the virus years, you know what I'm talking about, people really overpaid for homes in Cape Coral. Like that same 3-bedroom, 2-bath with or without a pool back into another home looking right into somebody's breakfast room. People were paying $500,000 for a home that prior to that blow up of the market, prior to that, those homes were selling for $275,000, $300,000 max. And then all of a sudden, the run up on the prices and people were paying $500,000. Well, what's happened now? The Florida experiment's over. It was fine. It was good. We don't love it. We want to go back to Michigan. We want to go back to Indiana. Somebody told me last week that I never mentioned Indiana. Yes, Indiana, Kentucky, Chicago, St. Louis, trying the Florida experiment. Maybe it didn't work out for whatever the reason is, and they want to go back. Or maybe they just decided they want a snowbird. That happens a lot too, that people kind of figure it out and they say, you know what, I like it, but I don't love it. I'm kind of halfway there. I just want a snowbird. Problem is, if you have to sell what you bought, you're going to have big problems right now. So number 2, Cape Coral. Number 3, some of you are going to be really happy to hear this. Naples. Naples as a whole. Finally, Naples, Florida. So let me give you some very specific numbers there. So I'm just going to read this. The same pressure that hit Cape Coral, increased supply, less buyer interest, rising carrying costs, are all working against sellers in Naples. So overall, as a whole, remember we're taking all of Naples. This happens every time I do a video like this. Somebody will say their neighborhood is selling homes in the first 18 seconds. I believe you, Earl. But that is not, remember, I'm giving you an average. This is all of Naples. So you have to factor in the fact that Naples has a ton of condos. Naples has a ton of golf course communities where fees have gone from maybe $10,000 a year to $20,000 a year. These fees have increased enormously, and it's not only on condos. So what ends up happening? A lot of people put their homes on the market. So right now, Naples as a whole has seen a significant price drop. So right now, Naples as a whole has seen a price drop of about 7% from last year. Now, some of you might say, hold on, Barrett, you just told me that Southwest Florida, you did a video last week that Southwest Florida had an increase in sales of 18%. That is correct. The entirety of Southwest Florida did have an increase of 18%. There's been tons of building. Venice has helped that out a lot. Welland Park has helped that a lot. Areas of Sarasota like Lakewood Ranch in and around that area helped a lot. East Naples helped a lot. I could go on. But remember, I was talking about all of Southwest Florida, 18% in sales. What I'm talking about right now is decrease in sales price, Remember the P word? That's the key to all this, the glue that holds it together. Price. So minus 6.7, we're going to round that to 7%. So the good news about that is if you're thinking about buying in Naples, listen, I know people don't, it always happens in the comments that somebody on the fake account.
You're just trying to drum up some business, Barrett.
Yeah, okay. Now, you know, when I do these videos, it's always Northport, Punta Gorda, Cape Coral. They just always sit at the worst numbers. Many, many reasons why. I could do an entire video on that, but they just do. So here we are, Punta Gorda. Punta Gorda is coming in at negative 6.2, so not that far off of Naples. So, and the reason given on this is basically the same thing. The Florida experiment, where people couldn't afford Naples and they'd been to Naples many times, and they decided that they would go with the JV. They really wanted to live in Naples, but they wanted to participate in the Florida experiment. And so they said, okay, you know what? I can drive an hour to Naples or whatever, an hour and a half to Naples if I want to. I can be in those one-off areas. But there's such a thing as one-off. And then when you get into the like 2-off and 3-off, listen, you're going to have problems, and that is what's happening. And the reason for that is it doesn't feel the same. For me personally, I don't mind Punta Gorda, and I think Babcock Ranch helped out Punta Gorda a little bit because it kind of put it on the map just a bit more, but it's way out there, and it's growing, but there may not be a time when anybody wants to be out that far. And when I'm saying that far, I mean from the Gulf. And then the last one, number 5, is Sebring, Florida. Now, this is an area that we don't talk about a lot because this is not what I would consider to be a resorty area. This is really just plain and simple, down and dirty, lack of affordability. So people bought homes that they really couldn't afford. There's job issues in the area. There's tons of homes on the market and skyrocketing carrying costs across the board globally. And by that I mean the cost of food, the cost of gas, the cost of utilities, all of these things, the cost of homeowners insurance. When everything comes up across the board and you were just barely getting in by the skin of your teeth, then you're going to have some problems. And I would say in Sebring, because it is more of a live-work area, less resorty, if you are somebody that fell prey to that whole date the rate, marry the house thing, that didn't work out for you. And what I mean by that is if you bought above your means, waiting for a rate drop because you thought, okay, I'm going to make this work because my loan officer told me that this would be fine. I can do this for a year. As long as I can hang on for a year, there's going to be 2 interest rate drops. There's going to be 3 interest rate drops by December. There's going to be all these things. If you fell victim to that and you were just barely making it to where literally an extra Starbucks latte was going to put you out of your budget, you're in big trouble right now. So those are the top 5 worst cities for a seller. But listen, we could build a really strong case that the opposite of that is true, because a publicly noted worst market for a seller is really great news for a buyer.